Ladies and gentlemen, my name is David Stockwell with DemoBlastStudios.com as we present Robyn Nelson's Wrestle Popcast here at ASW's Holiday Havoc. It's Black Friday, and we are joined by one of the most underrated performers perhaps ever in professional wrestling history, a man who has marked a path of success in WCW, ECW, WWF, TNA, etc., Ring of Honor. Can't leave that out.
Japan.
Well, there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, the new effing show, Jerry Lynn. Jerry, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure. And tonight, I'll be the new reffin' show.
That's right. Getting into refereeing. We've seen that recently. I'm trying to recall, you reffed a match at All In?
Yes.
Yes.
We were there.
Robyn and I were in attendance to feel a crowd that was like
amazing.
None other.
It was an amazing night. It's the first and only time since I retired that I wished I was still wrestling. Many moments that night where you just get chills and goosebumps. It was amazing.
It was an amazing event that hopefully will spawn a further resurgence in the casual fan and the hardcore fan's passion for professional wrestling.
I think the last few years there's already been a resurgence, especially on the indie level. There's so many companies all over the country that are just booming and getting bigger and running bigger venues, like AAW in Chicago has had to move to bigger venues. And what's the one in California?
PWG?
Yeah, PWG. Was it ICW in Cleveland? I think. Right? What is it? Insane?
AIW.
AIW. That's what it is. Yes. There's so many now. I get confused, but it's just the whole indie scene's hot right now. I wish it was this hot when I was still wrestling.
Well, you very much were a trendsetter. I think a lot of the guys today watched you and emulated your style. I mean, from your time working in ECW, WWF, WCW, especially TNA, when you had an opportunity to work with some of the newer crop of guys, including a guy that a few modern-day fans may know, AJ Styles.
They might know him.
Just you know,
Tell us who AJ Styles is.
Yeah, a great guy from Gainesville, Georgia. But he was. I could tell he was going to go places then because incredible athlete, and I had in some weird twisted way, a lot of fun in my little. It was, I think it was about a 2-year feud we had there. Wow. But that, and I think we kind of really adopted my style years before that when I was wrestling X-Pac when he was still the Lightning Kid. We had a couple-year feud up in the Midwest, and that's when we tried to implement every style we could find on videotapes, like Japan, England, Mexico, everything. We kind of wanted to merge it all together as one. So it's been fun trying to just be creative and give the fans something they hadn't seen before.
I mean, what you just described, I think, is very much what the initial idea, and probably still to this day, the idea behind Ring of Honor and their style and what has become the dominant style of professional wrestling. I don't want to jump ahead, but I have to say that one of my favorite time frames of watching you perform was your time as Ring of Honor champion. I specifically recall seeing you wrestle Roderick Strong in a title match in Dayton, Ohio. And
I'll never forget that night. That was a great night. And I won't forget it just because of the way the fans reacted that night. And because a lot of people considered that a so-called B show. And that night, the fans thought that I was going to that I was losing to Roderick, and it was just an amazing night. They were blowing the roof off the place. And poor Roderick was bleeding a gusher. But when he popped up and I saw how bad he was bleeding, and everyone else could see how bad he was bleeding, you could just feel the heat rise in the room. It was an amazing night.
Your time in WCW, people that were watching at that point know that you donned a mask as the mysterious Mr. JL. I hope I'm not spoiling anything for anybody out there by I'm sorry.
I kept telling everyone it was Jushin Liger. Come on.
I thought it was Tubutu Kura.
Hey? No,
that would be
not JL.
Spelling isn't his strong suit.
Okay, all right.
But nonetheless, that time frame in WCW, I know you've got fans waiting to meet you. If you could talk a little bit about that time, and did that time frame kind of motivate you to want to do more once you moved on from WCW?
Well, yeah, you always, I always try and create reasonable goals to try and achieve. Because, everyone, of course, when you break into the business, your goal is to get to WW. Well, then it was F, now it's E. Of course, that's your goal, but you got to be realistic, so you just got to set goals that are achievable as you move along. You can't right away, first day out of camp, go, I'm going to main event Mania, And so I always set reasonable goals to try and achieve, and, so I always had something to strive for. And and one thing I always tell the guys when I do seminars and stuff, it's always make sure you're having fun. Keep it fun. Because if it's just like work and you get up and you don't want to go, why bother, Then you're destroying your body for nothing.
Well, and that's an excellent point. And, some time that I'm sure may have taken some years off your career was that incredible rivalry with Rob Van Dam. I know that Robyn wants to find a little more about that particular rivalry.
I was going to say years. That took off my career. That took years off my life. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, tell us about your feud, how it started, and what was it like working with Rob Van Dam and the chemistry in the ring?
As far as how it started, I don't know. I guess the first time we wrestled each other in ECW, we just clicked, and I think Paul E saw something special there. And Rob and I also, we wanted to make it fun and challenging for ourselves, and we wanted to make it fun for the fans and give them something they hadn't seen before. Because when I grew up watching wrestling, anytime you saw two good guys wrestle, you're like, oh, really? No one wanted to see that. So when Paul E put us together, we wanted to make it something special for the fans to see too.
And also you had another feud with Just Incredible.
Oh yeah, he was great. I really enjoyed my feud with Just Incredible. He was a great bad guy. Let me just put it that way. Because even, you've always got your select group of fans in the crowd that will cheer for the bad guy. Justin would make them even hate him. And I always said, if I turn bad guy one day, I hope I could do it as good as Justin, because he was great.
Another question, you wrestled over in Japan. What was your most memorable moment?
It was a mask versus mask match against Grand Naniwa for Michinoku. Because if you've watched a lot of Japan stuff, the fans react very differently. Normally they're very quiet and will give you the polite golf clap or a few oohs and ahs. But if you got a big built-up feud or a big built-up match, when someone kicks out of a pinning attempt, they start stomping their feet in the chairs and then clapping and yelling, and it sounds like thunder roaring through the building. And I'd been at a few shows over there where I heard that for other matches, like with Sasuke and some of them. And when I saw that live, because I'd seen it on tape before, but live, it's amazing. I get chills thinking about it now still.
I can sit here growing.
But when I saw it live, I said, I made that one of my goals. I said, someday I want to have a match like that where the fans are reacting like that. And that night with Naniwa, the fans were doing that. And that was one of those nights I couldn't get to sleep till 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
It was that much of a rush.
So what do you enjoy outside the ring? What do you like to do? What do you do to enjoy to relax?
This is going to sound funny. I enjoy landscaping.
Landscaping?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. The house we bought now that we have now, when we bought it, there was 2 trees in the back and 2 bushes in front that were planted crooked. So I went and landscaped the whole house. I would probably have at least, I don't know, a dozen trees and a dozen bushes and others, big flower bed and stuff. And I did all the rock and you name it. But I like creating something like that.
Hey, that's very interesting. I had to ask.
Well, plus, it adds value to your home. It's curb appeal, so.
Do you have a lot of forest animals running around too?
No, I don't. But that's actually my peace of mind too. When I'm out in the yard and doing my thing, I just put everything else out of my head, I know it sounds, it's like, I don't know.
Hey, cool, man. That's interesting. That's well. I bet. So is it very relaxing to you?
Yeah. Sometimes sometimes it reminds me of how bad my back is, but no, it's not that bad.
No, not you.
No, I forget how physical it is, some of the work, but...
So where do you see yourself in 2019?
Actually, January 9th, I'm getting my second hip replacement. So I'll be out of commission for a couple months, but I will be at WrestleCon. So,
all right. Thank you so much for coming on, taking our time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And Jerry, just to close this out, thank you so much for your contributions to wrestling. You talked about creating with your landscaping. I mean, you created so much incredible art inside the ring on that canvas that's influenced a generation and has created, hours upon hours of just an awesome entertainment for myself and every wrestling fan out there.
Well, I looked at it as even if you were in a so-called time filler match that really meant nothing, I always tried to come up with one moment in that match to give the people something to remember. Like in LA with Steve Carino when I did the blood thing.
I remember that. That was classic.
Because the match was basically a time filler match in a pay-per-view, and we had just started our feud and it had no heat, and I thought, well, what can we do in this match to give the fans something to remember? And I tried to come up with something that hadn't been done in wrestling before, so I came up with that. So that's what I've always done. I always just tried to give the fans something to remember.
Hey, you did that tenfold. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us here. For Robyn Nelson and Wrestle Popcast, this is David Stockwell with DemoBlastStudios.com saying so long and see you at the matches.